The Formidable came and got us, the big British aircraft carrier, which I've got a pennant of in my room, and they took all the planes off and put them off in Malaya somewhere, and we had all these hammocks or charpoys, and we got on her and she brought us to Sydney.
Mm.
And then I got on the train to Melbourne and went to a hospital in Melbourne, I can't think where.
Maybe Heidelberg, was it?
An offshoot of Heidelberg, that's right, yeah. And I got to the DC3 and that took me to Launceston. And the family were there to meet me, my sister and mother and father, and that's it.
Now, Bobby, the war's over. You're back in Tasmania. Can you tell us about maybe meeting your wife and marriage and your civilian career, including going to London and or going to England rather than London, and I think anything that associated with your post-war career.
The post-war reconstruction scheme, they allowed you full mechanics rate of pay, and you could complete your apprenticeship, which I did with Nettlefolds, the big GM dealers in Hobart, and I got my ticket from there, and so then I decided to join International Harvester. I heard the job was going in International Harvester in Geelong, Victoria, and so I went there, and I was demonstrating tractors and ploughs and all that sort of thing, and then I heard of an exchange course in Doncaster, Yorkshire, England, and I went into the chief engineer in Melbourne, and he said, "Can you afford to pay your way to and fro?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, I'll sign you up." He said, "If you like to go to Yorkshire, you're on." So away I go to Yorkshire on exchange, and Gwyn was in Yorkshire on exchange physical education.
Really?
We met on the Stratheden. We were playing deck quoits and running around the ship and all that sort of thing. And we loaded wool in Adelaide and offloaded it in Port Said. And it took 4 weeks to get to England on the Stratheden. And then I went up to Doncaster and joined International Harvester, which I wanted to do, and it was a very interesting course, and they were nice chaps I was working with, and so it carried on with there. And I did the course, and I could have stopped another year, but we got engaged in England, and so we went back to Tasmania for 4 years, and then Gwyn wanted to come back to Sydney, and I heard about a job at International Harvester in Lidcombe. So I got in touch with one of the bosses, and he said, "Oh yes, you'll be right." So I joined International Harvester at Lidcombe, Sydney, and then we were just about to buy a house, and Gwyn's parents got very ill, and my mother passed away, and then our father passed away, and then this house was left to Pat and Gwyn and their brother Charles, and then we bought Charles's share out. So that's about it, I think.
One thing you didn't tell us is when and where did you get married?
Here in Dalhousie Street, down in the Baptist Church.
Yeah, and what year?
Crikey. Just I think 57.
Yeah. Well, we'll do an audit on that with Gwyn.
Check the box.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Maybe if you just two questions I'd like to ask you, and it's in this order. From your experience of being a prisoner of war, was there anything that you took out of it which was positive, that you have a good feeling about? And maybe the other side of that, what was the worst experience that you had as a prisoner of war?
Well, I think one of the things was that I was sort of always a fairly religious bloke, and the Presbyterian Church in Tasmania, in Melbourne, in Hunter Valley here, and Major Petey, he was something to do with Winchester Cathedral.
Was he? Yeah.
And I didn't know what we could do, and I talked to him one day. He was a very nice major, and he said, "Well, do you think we could get together with a hymn?" And I said, "I don't know, we'll try." And I said, "What about Abide With Me?" And he could remember a lot of the words, you know. And he got together with Peter Lester from Cambridge, and a few of the other English blokes. And we gradually get so we could sing Abide With Me, and the Japanese had let us.
Yes.
That was one of the worst things, one of the best
things, yes.
Yeah. One of the worst things was I used to have to sweep the stairs and clean up, do all the stairs, and I used to get it pretty good, as I thought. And then suddenly I discovered one of the Japanese sergeants was dropping dirt on them after I'd done the work. And then the Japanese captain came round. He said, "Grrrr!" You know, look at the dirt. I said, I couldn't say anything. Not a word, I couldn't say anything because I knew that the Japanese sergeant had chucked the dirt on it. But there was nothing I could do about it.
No. Did you get bashed?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I'm just lucky. I'm very lucky. Why I didn't?
And can you tell me what was the maximum and minimum temperatures that you experienced in Mukden?
It was definitely minus 30 on a few occasions.
Yes.
And I checked that with a taxi driver who came from Mukden.
Yeah.
And I said, "Was minus 30 correct?" He said, "Yeah, that was correct." I think the maximum would be about 25.
I understood it was much hotter. That's 25 Celsius.
Yeah. I could be wrong.
Yes, yeah. You don't remember it being exceedingly hot, though?
Not exceedingly hot.
Yeah.
No.
And I'm sorry to be all over the place about this, but you told me that they built these new workshops. Did you ever go into them? And
No, I never have.
No. Well, Bobby, it's been a long time for us getting to this interview. over a number of years of friendship. And finally I've got it.
I hope I've been correct. I've done all I can to remember as best I can.
Well, I can tell you this, I'm very, very grateful to you. And
I mean, if I've made errors, they're unintentional.
Lovely. All right, well, thank you. We'll stop it.